Caring Foundation might be one of the best kept secrets in town, okay? It's a local nonprofit, and what they do is, overall, they're trying to put the heart back into medicine.
Hey, this is quite a celebration. It's, as Paula said, it's a milestone. It's our 30th anniversary. It's the release of a new program. And this program also marks the completion of an entire series of programs. It's the third volume in our Cultivating Compassion series. I recently presented grand rounds for the surgical residents at Cottage Hospital. And the reason they asked me to do it was the head of the surgical education department was concerned. He didn't quite know how to broach the topic. And I think that's common for a lot of people. This is an awkward subject. How do we talk about burnout or compassion fatigue or vicarious trauma or moral distress? And what are they anyway? Are they all words to the same thing? Well, actually, they're not. They are slightly different, and it really matters to understand that. Anyway, the educational function, if you will, of a video is to get the conversation started. Because what happens is that you will hear, and many of the people who participated in the video are here in the audience today, which thank you all. But when you hear people speak candidly on camera about this issue, what happens after the credits have rolled, that conversation starts to continues in the room afterwards, because people feel like they now have permission to speak about this. That's about all I need to say. So with no further ado, it'll take about half a minute to lower the screen and dim the lights, and the piece is 35 minutes, and we'll have a panel discussion afterwards. So thank you for being here.
Life today is hard enough. We call it stress, depression, burnout.
For that rescue, here it is, we've saved 2 people, but we're having the stress or the depression or whatever have you of,
it's a new way of looking at things. And it's a fundamental change in context from the pursuit of excellence to the pursuit of wholeness.
Play ball, and basically it's a form of communion.
And it's also about the quality of your work. It's actually, and the competency of your work.
From a medical point of view, it's definitely much, much worse. I call it the dreaded M's, Medicare, Medi-Cal, malpractice, often a dysfunctional marriage, a mortgage, and so on. The new thing is medical records, electronic medical records, where before you could write something down in 5 minutes, now it can take you half an hour to do the same thing. So they just seem to be piling more and more and more stuff on doctors with less and less reimbursements. And I think in a sense, for the medical profession, the nurses as well, have kind of learned to live with the intolerable. So I think it's really worthwhile to involve us very much in this program.
And I think that's the hard part. I loved how you brought up that fire chief said, well, what do you do? I've got my chief and he's got my back. But as a psychotherapist, a lot of us are in private practice and we don't have anyone going, okay, that's enough. Take a time out. And I think a lot of even as doctors and nurses, we don't always have the people because they're under the same pressure. So I'm interested in your thoughts of where this will be going next.
Typically in our career, and I'll go back to law enforcement again, we're supposed to be so strong all the time for everybody. When a critical incident occurs, you need to be the one that directs people and guides them. They're looking to you for guidance. You can't fall apart. Afterward, if you weren't involved in what they call the critical aspect of it, you may just get asked to go back to work or go handle something else. And we've not been good about taking care of ourselves. The fire department has always traditionally been very good about embracing the critical incident debrief, talking about it. They live together. It's a different dynamic with them. With us, we all go home. We go home to our families, and unfortunately, our families get to see what's left over because we've given so much of ourselves to everybody out in the field. So what I want to do is bring this whole program, bring it back to public safety, to the sheriff's office in general, and implement this and start a peer support group, because as you know, we did have a very large incident that happened in Isla Vista recently, and people are still suffering from that. They're back at work, but they're not completely healed, in my opinion. So we need to do our best to make sure that they're ready to do their job properly, and also when they go home, that they're good for their family, their loved ones, their spouses, and their children.
But I think just listening is a lot of it. Sometimes, like, somebody listened to you today and you are able to let it out. It's really easy. I'm tough. Give me the next tragedy. I'm ready, you know, and talk to me. Your daughter just went to UCLA, is in a sorority. Talk to me, and things start to come out. So I think this awareness, again, is talking, listening, whether it's your neighbor, your friend, Jenny Schatzel, you know, whoever, is really just to talk about it and let it process.
I live in Isla Vista. I was on scene just a couple minutes after the last shot, and was at each one of the scenes, and in some ways have kind of been there ever since, quite honestly. And I've been asked to debrief with law enforcement personnel from the UCSB PD, Cottage, an ER doc, and some of the staff that was there that night, and a lot of others. And in the moment, I just got to tell you, when I get there on scene, I take a deep breath, and it's kind of this, you know, very calm place that, but then there is a price later on. And I know that's what, you know, anyone in a tactical situation, you go to a place that really does focus on the essentials. And then in the aftermath of that, like a tiger after a fight, a tiger, after he's been fighting, he shakes for a long, long time. Just stands there and shakes to shake off what was there. Sunday morning after Friday night, standing in front of the altar at church, serving a service, which I probably shouldn't have done. I was just fine until about the end of it, and then was just convulsed with sobbing. I couldn't stop for 2 or 3 minutes. And there is a price for being there. You know, I love my cops. I love my fire guys. I love my ambulance guys. You know, the responders. But there is a price that they pay that the county, the city, the state, all the people need to pay attention to. And, you know, as Abraham Lincoln said, to care for him who shall have borne the battle. And those that bore the battle, we need to come alongside of. And I'm so grateful for this year. Thank you, Simon.
So the point of this particular program is not so much the after-the-fact care, but what can we put in place beforehand so that there's more resilience and more sanity in the way we decide and how much we bite off at any one time. So that, and what we found were that these, I mean, everybody here has been in their field a good long time, and we were interested in how are they still doing what they're doing. They must be doing something right.
Okay. No, I think the point you make in the film is exactly on key, the 4 A's, teaching, awareness, and mindfulness. If we taught every 8-year-old mindfulness, the next generation, we would end a lot of violence. But we get lost in all the details of our life and we don't focus on that. So I think you have the key here in your film to change it. Like you said, it's not going to happen overnight, but if we could focus on these 4 A's and do a lot of teaching in this area, a greater awareness of ourselves when we're in a stressful situation, we're going to end a lot of this burnout and other issues. So thank you so much, Simon.
Thanks, Suzanne. It means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
So there is a broad range of cultural changes that need to take place, and I think this is a wonderful, wonderful place to start. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
This is one of the first things that you've done, which is to educate. And so I'm hoping that somebody somewhere is going to be that person that will implement some of these ideas to bring now the education that you have out farther.
This needs to be on the duty belt of law enforcement, right along with handcuffs and mace and tasers and everything else.
But what we do as our supervisors so many times that if somebody's having a problem, we ignore it. And we just don't do anything about it. And if there's a resource for that person, we simply take a card and slide it across the table and say, call that number if you need help. We need to not be doing that. We need to recognize when people are having issues and just sit down and talk with them.
As far as implementation goes, this really is a kind of a foot in the door program because it is modular. You can do it in 3 sessions. So it's not asking for an entire organizational shift. And by getting the foot in the door and getting the conversation started, then other things can happen. And in fact, we hope that this program actually helps people make the case for investing in more work like this that is very necessary.